Um, are you looking for a wallet? When the girl asked me that, I was taken aback. She was clearly homeless, yet she was holding my wallet. Most likely, the contents were already gone. But despite the fact that I was the one who had definitely dropped it, she returned it to me without taking anything. I wanted to thank her, so I invited her to my home. If you'd like, would you come over so I can thank you properly? I offered her a bath, a meal, and a place to sleep, and then, 3 months later, a group of people in black suits arrived in a black car to see me. Would you please accept this check? But without thinking, I grabbed the man by the collar and yelled, "My name is Keith Carter. I'm an ordinary guy, just a regular office worker. I don't have any outstanding talents compared to others, but if I had to say, I'd describe myself as serious. I always complete the tasks assigned to me, so I guess I'm trusted at work." On this day, like any other, I went to work, but as I was about to head out for lunch, I realized something terrible. My wallet is gone. I wasn't carrying a lot of money, but it did have my living expenses for the month and my driver's license. A driver's license is important to prove one's identity. More importantly, if the license fell into the wrong hands, it could be misused. Even if the person who found it does nothing, there are brokers on the internet who buy driver's licenses. Those who sell them may feel guilty, so they sell them cheaply, and they end up being used for crimes. They even mentioned it in a recent documentary I watched about real-life cases. If a license falls into the hands of a criminal, they might take out a large loan from a consumer finance company, forge credit cards, or sell it on the black market. This area is relatively safe, but it's not guaranteed. Where is it? Where did I lose it? Since I don't commute by train, it's unlikely I was pickpocketed on my way to work. I definitely put it in my bag when I left home this morning. Where could it be? Think back over today's actions. I woke up early today and bought a sandwich and coffee from a food truck in the park. I ate on a bench, and after that, did I put my wallet back in my bag afterward? No, I was holding the sandwich and coffee in both hands, so maybe I dropped it there. If I left it at the food truck, the staff would have noticed. Oh, I need to look for it on my way back. But before that, I need to do something to prevent the misuse of my driver's license. They mentioned this on TV too. First, I called the nearest police station to report that I had lost my driver's license and filed a loss report. This way, in case of any trouble, I can claim I reported it lost, which might help avoid any large charges. It might seem like there's not much you can do in the short time between morning and noon, but there's no harm in reporting it. If it's found, I can just tell the police it was found, and even if it's misused between morning and noon, there will be a record to help address the issue. Okay, we have accepted your loss report. Feeling relieved at their response, I decided to stop by the park on my way back and search, then resumed my work in the afternoon. After finishing work on time, I stopped by the park to thoroughly search the area where I walked this morning. Since I made the payment at the food truck, I must have had my wallet at that point. I retraced my steps to recreate my movements. First, I bought a sandwich and coffee at the food truck, paid, and put it in my pocket. Did I? Which pocket was it? I reached into the pocket of my slacks where I thought I had put it. These slacks have pockets with vertical openings sewn along the side seams. They're good because they don't lose their shape, but you can't put a wallet in these pockets. Oh! I let out a small gasp. I was certain I had dropped my wallet right here. But it's hard to believe I wouldn't notice a wallet lying in the middle of the path in such a conspicuous spot. Surely, the wallet. Are you looking for a wallet? Hearing the voice, I turned to see a young girl standing quietly. She looked homeless at a glance. This park has some playground equipment for children. One of the pieces of equipment is shaped like an upside-down bowl, providing some shelter from the rain and wind, which might make it safer than other places. There's a water fountain here, and once a week, volunteers come to provide free meals. But none of that really mattered at the moment. Yes. Is it this? In response to my answer, the girl showed me what she was holding. It was undoubtedly the wallet I had lost. Yes, that's it. I felt a huge wave of relief upon seeing my wallet again after the whole morning. Your driver's license was inside this. Yes. Can you tell me your name and date of birth? If they match, I'll give it back to you. I thought she seemed like a cautious girl. Indeed, she had to consider the possibility that I might be lying just to get the wallet back. It's unfortunate, but there are certainly people who would do that. I'm Keith Carter. Okay. My date of birth is. As I began to speak, the girl glanced at the license and smiled slightly. No doubt about it. And the picture doesn't seem like a great one. Oh, that day. I had a stomachache. Wait, did you already know and just ask to confirm? Yes. The girl laughed and handed the wallet back to me. Thank you. I was worried because my driver's license was in there. You're welcome. Can I ask your name? I'd like to know the name of the person who helped me. It's Iris. Iris, thank you. You really saved me. I thanked her sincerely again. Taking another look at her, I noticed her hair was messy, and her clothes were in tatters. I didn't know how long she had been here, but she seemed pretty smart. She had common sense, and her language wasn't rough. Just in case, I checked the contents of the wallet and saw no signs that anything had been taken. It wasn't much money, but it was enough to buy dinner or even go to a public bath. Well, I'll be on my way. Wait. As Iris bowed and turned to leave, I instinctively called out to stop her. I want to thank you. Thank me? A meal, a bath, and a place to sleep. How does that sound? At my suggestion, Iris clutched the front of her shirt, looking a bit frightened. Seeing her reaction, I thought, huh? But then I quickly realized what it might look like. This is like one of those situations where a young girl is lured into someone's house for something bad. No, no, no. I have no ill intentions. Huh? Really? Purely. I just want to thank you. And if you don't trust me, you can even tie my hands. I blurted out defensively, and Iris looked at me, puzzled, before bursting into soft laughter. But it's only natural not to trust someone you've just met. What should I do? He. In that case, maybe we could go to, huh? Keith, you're a good person. If it's not too much trouble, may I accept your offer? When Iris said that, I felt relieved that the misunderstanding was cleared up. Besides, knowing that this young girl was homeless in a park, I couldn't just leave her like that. I smiled and said, of course, and decided to guide her to my apartment. Talking with her like this made me realize again, Iris is indeed intelligent and has a great personality. This made me even more curious about why she had ended up homeless. For now, I stopped by a nearby convenience store and had her do some shopping. I handed her my wallet and asked her to buy underwear and a change of clothes for herself. Because there's a bar district nearby, they sell simple changes of clothes as well. I suppose that's proof of people who, after a night of heavy drinking, end up vomiting and needing new clothes. After confirming Iris had finished shopping, we headed to the apartment where I live. The rent for this apartment is decent, and it comes with a separate bath and toilet, as well as a changing room. Most importantly, it has a private room in addition to the dining area, so I plan to offer that private room, which I use as a bedroom, to her. I guided Iris to the changing room and handed her a few freshly washed bath towels and new towels I kept for guests. I then told her she was free to use the soap and shampoo and hurried to the kitchen. After checking the fridge, I started making chicken soup. Chicken soup is filling and warms you up. With chicken, vegetables, macaroni, and some frozen mushrooms I had stored, it should be perfect. After adding a small side salad of lettuce and cucumbers that I had bought from the supermarket to balance the meal, Iris seemed to have finished her bath. I offered her a seat, and she sat down obediently, and we started eating together. Iris smiled and said the simple dinner was delicious, and she ate every bite. It had been a long time since I'd shared a meal with someone, and even this simple meal tasted better than usual. While eating, I noticed that Iris had what looked like a burn scar on her face. However, even with that scar, her features were so well proportioned that it didn't detract from her appearance. After getting cleaned up in the bath, I realized just how beautiful Iris was, and it surprised me. This only made me more puzzled as to why someone like her would be homeless. Her table manners were also good. Maybe she had been living with someone until recently. Hey, Iris. Yes? I'm sorry if this offends you, but I wanted to ask. Iris, have you been living with someone until recently? I wasn't sure if that someone was her parents or relatives. But Iris looked young. If she were a minor, it would be unthinkable not to have someone looking after her. Yes, you're right, Keith. Then, Iris began to share her story. It was just 3 months ago that I started living in that park, becoming homeless. She spoke in a calm, steady voice. Iris, you're underage, right? How old are you? Oh, wait, is it rude to ask a woman her age? Hee hee, I don't mind. I'm 18. So, you're a high school student? No, I never went to high school. I've been working part-time since I graduated from middle school. There are several reasons why someone might work after only finishing middle school. Maybe her family is poor, or perhaps her parents passed away early. Is it okay if I ask why? Yes. Iris nodded and continued her story. My parents were, well, what people call toxic parents. They were heavy drinkers, always drinking, even in the middle of the day. Drinking during the day suggests they didn't work. They might have worked night shifts, but if that were the case, there wouldn't have been a reason for Iris to stop at middle school. They spent all the money they had on alcohol, always drinking. Sending me to high school was never an option. My middle school teacher, Mr. Murphy, told them I could go on a scholarship, but my parents said if she works instead of going to high school, she'll make money, and chased him away. That's truly the worst. They kept debating about it until the very last minute, which delayed my job search. So, I had no choice but to juggle multiple part-time jobs. That's awful. But even the money I earned was taken from me and used for alcohol. Even if I tried to hide it, they would find and spend it. So I couldn't buy new clothes and ended up wearing hand-me-downs from middle school. Indeed, the clothes Iris was wearing seemed neither the right size nor suited for the season. And then, 3 months ago, an incident occurred that led to me becoming homeless. Due to my parents' carelessness, I got scalded with boiling water on my face. Boiling water? That day, my parents were fighting. I thought if I didn't intervene, it would disturb the neighbors, so I tried to stop them. But I got pushed. and the boiling water from the kettle on the stove spilled on me. It was so hot and painful, I screamed. Even a small splash of boiling water on your finger hurts terribly. Having it on your face, that's unimaginable. And for a young girl's face, of all places. A woman's face is so important to her. Just thinking about the despair she must have felt at that moment made my blood boil. I screamed loudly, and the neighbors rushed over. They tried to call the authorities. But my parents didn't like that and reluctantly took me to the hospital themselves. At least she got to the hospital. They must have given her some medication and explained the treatment options. At the hospital, they said I had deep partial thickness burns, which are second-degree burns. I'm not sure of the exact term, but they said it would take 3 to 4 weeks to fully heal. They mentioned the cost of treatment, but I didn't hear it. Second-degree burns. I don't know much about burns, but I know enough to understand they shouldn't be left untreated. Even minor burns that cause blisters shouldn't be ignored, and second-degree burns, which affect deeper layers of the skin, require urgent treatment. If left untreated, the scars could turn into raised, red keloids or hypertrophic scars. Hypertrophic scars are hard, raised areas of skin that can sometimes be painful or itchy. I know this because my father once suffered a burn like that. It took a long time to heal, and even now, he still has keloids, but since they're not in a visible place and he's a man, he laughed it off as not bothering him. But Iris is a young girl, and it's her face. The doctor said that if I received proper treatment, the scars wouldn't be permanent, but my parents probably didn't want to spend money on it. I see. At the hospital, they just said, okay, but when we got home, they yelled at me. What? I figured they didn't intend to let her get proper treatment, but yelling at her? What for? They grabbed me by the hair and said, you had a good face, so I thought you'd eventually make us a lot of money. But now look what you've done. How ungrateful can you be? Ungrateful? These are the people who didn't even send her to high school. Then, they kicked me out with nothing. I wandered around and found the park where I met you, Keith. That park is known for having volunteer food distributions once a week. But it's still a park. Not the safest place for a young girl to sleep. This morning, I saw you drop your wallet, Keith, but I didn't have the strength to chase after you. The last time I had a proper meal was 3 days ago, at a volunteer food distribution. Hearing Iris's words, I felt like I was about to cry. That's why, when I checked the wallet, I saw your driver's license and thought you would come looking for it, so I held onto it. Iris. This girl is genuinely good-hearted. If anyone were in such a desperate situation and found a wallet, it wouldn't be surprising if they took the money. Even I had already resigned myself to the cash being gone. I'm glad that you're such a kind person, Keith. What? Because you reached out to someone like me, who was so filthy. The volunteers gave me food, but they looked disgusted when they got close to me. I must have smelled. Iris. But I believe there are kind people like you out there. I ended up like this because of my personality, always too scared to stand up to my parents. But meeting someone kind like you, who gave me a warm bath and a delicious meal, I feel incredibly happy right now. I will never forget this kindness for the rest of my life. Oh, come on. You don't need to treat a simple bath and meal like a lifelong debt. And besides, I told you this was just a thank you for finding my wallet, right? I couldn't hold back my tears anymore. Why does such a good person have to go through something so cruel? Iris, seeing my tears, gently wiped them with a tissue from nearby. I offered her my bed to sleep in. It wasn't freshly aired out, but she smiled happily, saying it had been a long time since she'd slept in a proper bed. Once I was sure she had fallen asleep, I lay down in the dining room. I kept in mind what I needed to do the next day. The following morning, I called my office to take the day off. Since I was usually diligent at work, they didn't question me too deeply about the reason. For breakfast, I served some simple toast and scrambled eggs. Then, I told Iris we would be going to the police together today, and she seemed a bit surprised. But she was still only 18, and she deserved protection. Her parents needed to be arrested as criminals and held accountable for their actions. I spoke with the police on her behalf. First, I explained that the wallet and driver's license I had reported missing had been found. Then, I shared everything Iris had gone through, the awful things her parents had done to her. When the female officer saw the burn on Iris's face and heard about how she was thrown out, even she couldn't hide her grimace. I understand. We'll take it from here. As for her parents, we'll handle it within a day or two. Thank you. I bowed to the police officer and left the rest in their hands. I wasn't Iris's parent or relative. I couldn't involve myself any further. Keith, thank you so much. Yeah, just leave the rest to the police, okay? Even though I said I worked part-time, I didn't know much. I should have asked the police for help sooner. I really am such a fool, aren't I? Iris laughed, but I gently hugged her. I'm sorry. It's probably uncomfortable being hugged by a guy who isn't your boyfriend or brother, right? But I want you to understand. There are people here who want you to be happy, and none of us think you're a fool. I'm really glad I met you, Iris. As I spoke, Iris showed tears for the first time since we met. I always wanted my dad and mom to hug me like this. Thank you, Keith. The officers around us looked on with kindness. 3 months later, I noticed a black car parked in front of my apartment, and a group of men in black suits got out and approached my door. When the doorbell rang, I answered, only to be left speechless by the sight of these men in black suits. Wait, did I do something wrong? As I stood there, too stunned to speak, the man who seemed to be the leader ordered the others around him. You all head back to the car. You're only going to alarm him. Only the man who seemed to be the leader remained, and he greeted me at the door. My name is Glenn. I am Iris's father. What? Iris's? Yes, the other day. What were you doing? Do you have any idea how much Iris suffered? You didn't even let her go to high school, made her work. Let her suffer burns on her face without giving her proper treatment, and then you threw her out. If you're a parent, your first priority should be to protect your child. You're supposed to be family. You're absolutely right. That's why I want to talk about this, so could I come in? Come in. Arguing at the doorway and getting kicked out of the apartment wouldn't help anyone. Besides, this man didn't seem like the drunken father Iris had described to me. I let the man, who claimed to be Iris's father, into the dining room and served him only tea. First, I apologized for the sudden visit. As I mentioned, my name is Glenn, and I am Iris's father. I'm Keith. Thank you for helping Iris. The truth is, I haven't been able to see her for a long time either. What? What do you mean? Iris was abducted when she was very young. I was stunned by what Glenn was saying. I run a certain company, he continued. It turned out to be a well-known corporation, even I had heard of it. Iris was the daughter of a major corporation, and Glenn, standing before me, was her biological father. Of course, even though she was taken, no ransom was demanded. We contacted the police, but they were unable to find the culprit. It has been 15 years since we lost Iris. I was beginning to give up. After 15 years of searching, anyone would imagine the worst. But then, 3 months ago, I got a call from the police. "We may have found your daughter," they said. This must have been right after I left Iris with the police. Iris was only 3 years old at the time, so she didn't remember us and didn't even realize her real parents existed. We immediately conducted a DNA test to confirm our relationship. I see. The results confirmed that Iris is indeed my daughter. I brought her home, and now my wife and I are doing our best to make up for the time we lost. My wife is also overjoyed to have Iris back. Glenn's voice trembled with emotion, and tears welled up in his eyes. Seeing this, I could tell it wasn't an act, and knowing Iris was back with her real family, being loved, made me feel genuinely happy. As if it were my own happiness. I thought you might be concerned about what happened to Iris, so I wanted to let you know. Thank you. I'd love to hear more. First, she has regained her health. The burn on her face is being treated with the latest laser therapy, and the inflammation is subsiding. If we continue, it should completely disappear. That's great. I was worried since it's her face, after all. We can't thank you enough. And what happened to the people who were pretending to be her parents? I hadn't been told anything since I wasn't a family member. But Glenn, her real father, should know what happened to those who mistreated Iris. Those two were taken away by the police. As expected. They said they took Iris because they thought she might be worth money. But since demanding money from her real parents might expose their identity, they decided to have her work for them in the future. Their response was utterly self-centered. Why did they let her attend school up to middle school? It's true that education up to middle school is mandatory, and if they sent her to a public school, they might have managed. But it's not entirely free. Families must cover the cost of school materials, extracurricular activities, and field trips. Oh, well, it seems they had a child of the same age. However, they lost their child due to their own negligence. To cover it up, they sent Iris to school under their real daughter's name. They probably thought they could deceive the neighbors and those around them. I felt anger boiling up at Glenn's words. How horrible can people be? The guilt of causing Iris such sadness for their selfish reasons is heavy. Iris and Glenn are now consulting with lawyers to pursue the couple's punishment. Thanks to you, we were able to reunite with Iris. No, I have a small token of appreciation for you. I'd like you to accept this check for $33 million. I was taken aback. I had many questions, but first, why $33 million? I asked, puzzled by the oddly specific number. Iris's birthday is March 3rd. With a smile, Glenn offered the check, but I firmly refused to accept it. I can't take the check, but could I ask for a favor instead? My request was to see Iris again. Glenn immediately agreed, and we were reunited. A few years later, we decided to get married. The scars on Iris's face had faded away completely, and her once thin frame had become fuller and more womanly. Standing before me was a woman of stunning beauty. I've become a bit prettier, haven't I? Yes, but even if you had scars again, I would always love you. Of course, I'd never want anything like that to happen. So I promised to protect you no matter what. As I smiled, Iris hesitated for a moment and then leaned in close to whisper in my ear. Thinking it was a secret conversation, I leaned in to listen, and she whispered, "I'm glad I didn't take any money from your wallet back then." Honestly, I was torn. But I'm so glad I believed in my future. She then hugged me tightly. I gently hugged her back, holding her close.